Welcome to the Legacy 7 podcast. I'm your host, James M. Holloway. And around Atlanta, they say I'm the most interesting man in the city. 7 names, 1 legacy. Let's get it. Welcome to the Legacy 7 podcast, where our interviews won't be perfect, but our conversations will always be real. I am your host, author, leader, and I say 5 to 6 people in Decatur say I'm the most interesting man in Atlanta, James M. Holloway. Today, we have a special guest with us. His name is Dr. Sheldon Eakins, and he is just a very interesting and inspiring brother. I really have been motivated by his work for years, and I am very, very excited to have him here. This conversation will have a little bit of soul sprinkled on it between he and I. So without further ado, we're going to do what we do normally here, and I'm going to give him a round of applause. So hold us, please, for a round of applause, and then we will get this great conversation started.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. All right, so one of the things that we do here specifically is we get down to the heart of who someone is. You said something on the phone to me, and I'm gonna call you Super Sheldon every now and then in this conversation. You said something on the phone to me that was very powerful, and it just made me stop. It was, you are more than equity. Tell everybody why you are more than equity.
So I love this question. I'm glad that we're starting here because, like, I started leading equity. So that's the name of my podcast. That's the name of my organization, and that's what I started everything for. I moved to Idaho, and I was a black man living in Idaho. 0.8% black people in that whole entire state, and so there was a lot of things that I had experienced or that I had not experienced that was a lot different than growing up in the South. Like in the South, I knew exactly where not to go. I knew exactly who not to talk to. It's open, it's out there. But I experienced a lot of things that was subtle that I just didn't know how to navigate or how to handle it. And not just for myself, but for my kids and then also for my students as well. So I started looking into equity and trying to develop language and trying to develop things. And I would argue that I became an expert in that area, but when you become an expert in any type of area, that sometimes puts prominence. And as a person that is known for, equitable related conversations, and my show is about equity, I didn't want to get pigeonholed or limited to just that. So like when I would apply for jobs, I seemed to always qualify for these DEI positions, but not necessarily for other positions that are education related. And so I like to start there first because people tend to know me as the equity guy, the DEI guy, but I'm more than that. I'm a lot more than that. And so that's why I'm glad we were able to kind of talk about that on the phone.
Okay. So you want to be starting some. At least that's what the Jacksons said back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, pigeonholing in leadership, specifically in education, talk to the audience about what that feels like.
So I had an opportunity I actually had a few opportunities. I'm an educational consultant. And for a time in my life, I would probably say from 2021, 20, maybe up to about 2024, somewhere around there, I was full-time educational consultant and I was on the stage. Again, often brought in for doing equity work or DEI related work. And but then again, as I started looking at, well, okay, what does the future of Sheldon look like? The legacy, if you will, and what other opportunities are going to be there? If I stay in this lane, is that going to be something that's just going to keep me always there, or should I look into other administrative roles? So I decided I wanted to get back into schools and started wanting to work in those positions. But I didn't want to just be limited to deans. I didn't want to be limited to just maybe athletic coach or something like that. I wanted to have an opportunity to maybe be an instructional coach or maybe be a curriculum and instruction specialist or director or principal, assistant principal. Those are positions that I wanted to be qualified or I felt that I was qualified and eligible for. So I applied for a lot of jobs and honestly, I wasn't getting them. And I started really looking at some of my colleagues and talked to my friends who are also Black males, and they were kind of in some similar situations where either they may get an AP role, but that still focus a lot more on the discipline side of things, or they would get other positions, but mainly tied or connected to discipline. Don't let your school have predominantly Black boys, then you're even getting like that's where you're put into those boxes. And so I want it to be more than that. And fortunately, over the years, I've developed a lot of relationships and have a network of people to where I just happen to be having a random conversation with an individual colleague, just getting caught up with them. And I was kind of telling them the story like, look, this is where I'm at. I wanted to get back in schools. I don't want to be limited to those traditional stereotypical roles that Black males tend to get, and I want to get back into a leadership role as a school principal. And she said, well, Sheldon, I just happen to have a position that's available in Phoenix. Would you be open to relocating? And I got excited because don't get me wrong, James, I like Idaho. Idaho is nice. So I'm not, I have nothing, I don't have nothing bad to say about Idaho. It taught me a lot. And again, I probably wouldn't be as far as the consulting side of things without those experiences. However, I was ready. I was ready. 7 years I've been here in the state. I'm ready to move out of Idaho and see what else is out there. And so she offered me the position. So it was helpful again to have a network of people who knows your worth, who knows your value, and they were able to put me in. But that was again a random conversation I just happened to have, which brought me to Phoenix, which brought me back into administration. And so that's what I'm really excited about now these days, because I didn't want to end up like a Steve Urkel, where all anytime you see Jaleel White, that's all you can see. It did I do that? He's never really been able to have any type of career outside of Family Matters, because he's, or even Carlton Bank, that's not even his real name. So Alfonso Ribeiro, right? These are individuals that had a very memorable character, position, and they just haven't been able to move out of those spaces. And because every time you see them, when they audition or if they make it to another movie or show, that's all you can see. You're literally calling them Steve Urkel, or you're calling him Carlton. And I just didn't want to be that down the road. I love what I do, and I feel like as an administrator, I can embed DEI. Like, I'm the chief DEI person. I may not have that label, that title, but as a lead administrator, someone that's supervising or running a school or any of those kind of things, that to me gives me more leverage, and I can embed all of this work. And not only that, I can ensure that my staff, the students, anybody that's part of the school community are involved in that process, as opposed to me being a DEI person or a dean here. I may not have any staff. I may not have a lot of authority. I can highly encourage someone or a teacher to be equitably minded or focused, but I can't fire them. And I'm probably not able to hire them if I'm in those type of positions versus being a leader of a school or a program.
Well, you about to start some. I'm gonna have to take a sip of my Red Bull because I got to get this out, because we're about to ruffle some feathers with the next thing that I say to you or add to this conversation. Audience, please pause for a second and watch me enjoy this Red Bull and then wipe my face, and then I'm gonna continue the conversation. Again, we stated that these conversations and interviews won't be perfect, but they are real and they are of quality. So y'all hold please for the Red Bull break, maybe 2 seconds.
Mhm.
All right, let me make sure all right, get myself together. So, man, you have something that is gold in some places, and in other places is cold.
Okay.
Now, listen, you said that a lot of men, I'm going to start with men, then I'm going to go ahead and increase you said a lot of men are typecast and
Mhm.
historically in positions of coaching discipline, and they get locked in the box where they aren't seen as instructional leaders. And then you put a little bit of chocolate syrup on the sundae and added the Black male aspect to it in leadership. So let's touch on both of those,
Okay.
because it is true for men, and it might be a little truth about the Black male aspect too.
Well, see, James, I do want to separate because you can see a white man walking down the school hallway, and he said he was the principal. You may not be surprised, because typically my counterparts, they tend to get administrative roles. We see that a lot in a lot of our schools. So when I'm talking specifically about our black males, educators, that's not necessarily the case. I remember, and I was young. I was young. I was about 29 years old. I will say I was 28, 29 years old, and I remember I went to, actually it happened a couple of times, 'cause I had 2 schools that I ended up running, and, the first time I was walking down, I met a parent, I said, "Say, hey, I'm Sheldon Eakins, I'm the principal," and they, "Oh my god," like, they couldn't believe it. Now, again, I was young, okay? So I'll use that one as a, maybe that was the bias, or what they saw, but, I could just see it in their face, the level of surprise.
Mm.
I remember years later, finished my doctorate, and when you first get your PhD, like, you're just telling you find ways to put that in every conversation. Like, there's some way that we weren't even talking about it, but somehow it just, that comes up, because again, I was fresh on it, and I was talking to a family, and this was like an open, one of those family nights, beginning of the school year type of thing, open house,
Mhm.
and it was a family that was there. And again, I said I'm Dr. Akins, and they were, doctor. So you have a PhD? And I was like, yeah, I have a PhD. Like, I was excited, but they, again, you could see the look on their face, the level of surprise in which they weren't expecting me to say I have a PhD. I don't think that would be the case for other males. My counterparts, for white males, that tends to not, at least from what I've seen and what I've witnessed, that doesn't always seems to be the case. That's the reality of being an educator. I think we only represent 2 or 3% as far as the educational force. And so, like, when you're a small population, then yes, there are misunderstandings. I'll just say misunderstandings that are associated with the capabilities of black males. We tend to be looked at as athletic. We tend to be, again, looked at as those who have a skill set and disciplinarians. And so, because of those are the quote unquote strengths that we have, those are often the places that we get placed. I have been in multiple school environments where I've worked on a tribal school, for example. I worked on a reservation, and still, anytime other teachers had issues with certain students, again, these are all Native American kids, they would send them to me, because for some reason Sheldon was the difficult kid whisperer, and I was able to, have develop those reports and relationships with them, and be able to create that level of respect that a lot of those teachers were looking for. Maybe be able to de-escalate them in their situations, but that has historically been the challenge, or the, I don't want to call it a challenge, but just more of how I've been experiencing education as an educator outside of the teaching world. I tend to lean towards being that individual that can work with students, the difficult students, that can develop those relationships. For me, it's just a matter of, how do I relate with this child? How do I develop this strength? How do I develop a nurturing capacity, mentoring capacity for students that have been labeled whatever they've been labeled, ADHD, ODD, whatever alphabets we want to utilize. How do I create that relationship with them? And it can be done. It's just because I don't look like that person, just because I don't share the same background, doesn't mean that I can't create that time to relate to students. And that has always been helpful for me. But again, I have more skills. I'm an educator. I have a PhD. I am in K through 12 education. So that encompasses a wealth of knowledge and understanding. I have 3 books published, and so, like, yeah, I can give you classroom management instruction. I can give you support on history, because I was a history teacher. So how to teach history lessons at all levels. I could teach you how to be in a leadership roles and mentor in those capacities, not just limited to just DEI related stuff. I know that's where a lot of my conversations come from, a lot of my content comes from. But again, those should not be viewed as add-ons, because there's DEI in history, there's DEI in curriculum and instruction. There's DEI in everything. If we're wanting to be intentional with our abilities or efforts to present to our students a very diverse perspective. If we tell stories one sided and we just share it from this view, this lens, and not share it from other people's views and their lenses, then we're not being diverse in our approach. But if we are saying, okay, here's the expansion into the West. All right. So we're talking about Oregon Trail, or we're talking about the Trail of Tears. Okay. So these are the reasons why what we call the United States was expanded. But how were people impacted during those times outside of the settlers? How were the Native Americans experiencing things? How were the Black folks experiencing things? How were Hispanic folk? Like, how were different groups of people impacted during this time frame of these several years that we talk about? We don't always tell that story, and that's always been something that I was very intentional about as a classroom teacher. Was like, if I'm going to tell a story, I'm going to tell the whole story. I'm not just going to tell parts of it or what's common or what we know about. Like, I'm going to really dig deep and find different perspectives and interviews and content and articles and journals from various lenses so that that can be presented to our students so they have a more of a well-rounded understanding of what this life was like or what this event was like.
That's all I got right now. but seriously though, this is what I want to say to everybody listening. Dr. Sheldon Eakins just put you up on game. The truth and nothing but the truth. This is a hashtag for you all. It is hashtag and did. In his 20s was a principal. And we got another hashtag for you all. And does has a PhD. So allow me to reintroduce Super Sheldon to everybody because he is more than equity. And I hope you just heard all of the things that he said that he is, because that is a vast skill set of excellence. Let me say that again, vast skill set of excellence. That's why you inspire me, man. He said something else that's very impactful, and I think that people don't understand the significance of this thing and the work that we do. And yes, I'm hitting my hand being a kid whisperer. How important is that for connectivity in a building? Talk to him, Super Sheldon.
It's very. Here's the thing. We go to school, or we have schools, the kids are supposed to learn, right? They're supposed to, let's say if I teach math, science, social studies, whatever the content is, ELA, we can't expect them to perform or do their best if we don't have any sort of relationship with our students. You know, 2 plus 2 is going to always equal 4. But if we don't have that relationship with students, that piece can get lost. I know a lot of folks that are listening, especially if you're an educator, you know there's a group of kids that you might have in your classroom that they could care less what you're teaching them. They just want to know what they have to do to get an A. Okay, so all I have to do is this 10-page paper. I need to find 5 sources, and I need to do a 12-minute, and they're going to give you exactly that. There's no care, there's no love. That is you asked me for this, I gave it to you. And guess what? They get an A, right? Because they hit all the checks that they needed to hit on that assignment. Now on the other side, you're gonna have a group of students that's not gonna want to do any of that stuff. Right? Hey, you're gonna have to hold their hand a little bit more, and you're gonna have to do a little bit more pulling and more coaxing to get them where you want them to be. Then you're gonna have and that's just the academic side of things. But in between all of that, there are behaviors that are going to be prevalent within that classroom. So even a group of kids that are in that space where like all I need to know is what to do, and I'll give it to you. And then the opposite, where it's like you had to give them a little bit more encouragement in order to get them where they need to be. They still are human beings and they still have behaviors that are going to be exhibited within that classroom. So, what I see a lot of teachers, unfortunately, they get to a place where they get frustrated with that group of students that not only are they maybe giving them challenges with getting the work done, but they're also getting challenges with them, quote unquote, complying with rules, regulations, and the laws of the classroom. Um, that were created by the teacher without any student input. So now they're butting heads because there's a power struggle that can ensue because that piece is like you have one group, the teacher saying this is how it needs to be done, and the student saying, well, I don't want to do it that way. But again, there's no relationship in between. So when I say the importance of being a kid whisperer is looking outside, like removing the academic side, removing the other issues that are there, but just really getting to the root of do I know who the student is? Do I know a little bit about their background? Do I know what maybe their home situation looking like? Have I had conversations with them on Mondays to ask them how their weekend was? Students will do things for you out of a level of respect versus a level of fear versus a level of compliance. I just want to get this done because I want an A. I would rather a student get things done for me because they respect me as a teacher, as an individual. Maybe they look up to me, but I'm not going to get that type of work if I do not create a space in which a student feels safe to be vulnerable, students feel safe to be acknowledged and heard, and validated their feelings, and not just focus on the academics, but also on my social emotional well-being. And that's the piece that gets missed sometimes. Again, I know you got 30, 40 kids in one classroom in addition to the 6, 7 periods that you have for the day. So sometimes it can be hard to develop those relationships and rapport. It can be done. It is possible. Doesn't necessarily mean a lot of work in some areas. It just requires some intentionality in a place to where students feel accepted, supported, and included. And if we're not there, then yes, you might get that work, or yes, you might have to have students do a little bit more support to get that work done. But they're doing it for different reasons. I rather them do the work because they respect me.
It's different when students do the work because they respect you.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. For the educators out there that teach from the heart, you know what that means. Yeah. What you just described, man, is a recipe. You have to have that recipe to be impactful in the classroom with scholars. And the recipe is simple. You sprinkle a little bit of care in everything that you do. Yeah. Let's move on. I'm floored by some of the things that you've said today. So what's the biggest lesson that you think you've learned on this leadership journey so far?
On a leadership journey, for me, there was a moment I was running a school, and this is that school where they were surprised I was a principal. So I was again 29 years old, and I was working on my doctorate. Son was just born, and running a school, trying to grow the school, trying to get it to where it needs to be. So I had some grants I needed to write, and trying to get my dissertation stuff done. It was overwhelming, and I remember calling my dad, and I remember telling him, I said, "Pops, I feel overwhelmed. I'm trying to run the school. I got to deal with parents. I got to deal with this. I got to deal with all these. I'm listing all the stuff that I have that I'm dealing with right now, and deadlines in addition to that." And he said, "Son, you'll never be caught up." That's all he said. He was like, "You will never be caught up. There will always be more work to do." And I took that message and I've carried that message on as a leader, because sometimes we get overwhelmed with the amount of things that we have to do. We got to do teacher evals. We got to work with this parent or meet this, go to this IEP meeting. Like there's so much in a daily task list of administration, and not even including our emails, right? Like there's just so much that we have to do on a daily basis and deadlines. But at the end of the day, you'll never be caught up. I hear people say that sometimes. Oh, I just want to be caught up. Oh, I just need to get caught up on my emails. And I laugh when I hear somebody say I need to get caught up on my emails. I'm like, what's gonna happen 5 minutes later? You know good and well you're gonna have 5 more emails.
That's right. That's right.
You will never get caught up on emails. Let's start there. You're gonna always have more. You're gonna always have more. But if you get to a place where it's like, so he told me, he said, listen, I want you, and again, this is stuff that I do to this day. That was what, 10 years ago, maybe longer. But he was like, let me tell, I'm not telling my age, but that actually would have been more than 10 years ago now, think about it. But the point is, he said, every day I want you to write a list of tasks that you have. This is what I need to do today. And then I want you to circle the ones that have to happen. Right. So let's say you have 10 tasks that you need to get done. These three have to happen today. Like no matter what, there's no budge on it. It has to take place. And then once you get those three tasks done, anything else, if you get through those are bonuses. But at least get these, whatever this has to take place, and the other ones maybe they can follow up tomorrow, whatever it is. And I do that today. I have my notepad, and every morning I write down, okay, I need to do this, you do this. It may end up 6 things, it might be 7 things, it might be 10 things, it might be 15, depending on the day. Then I circle the ones that I had, like it is non-negotiable. These things must take place today. And then I cross them out as soon as I knock them done, put a check next to them, whatever it is, and then I move on. But that's how I do my daily task, because again, you otherwise you're going to be overwhelmed. I got 15 things that needs to happen. Where do I start? Which one do I do? Like that pre-planning can take place early in the morning. Again, I'm a morning person, so I'm up, I'm live, and I'm ready to go early in the morning. Those are the best times to catch me. I knock out those tasks by the end of the day. I feel good because I accomplished the 3 or 4 things that I had to do. And anything else that I do on it is like icing on a cake. And if we operate that way, that has probably been the most valuable lesson that I've learned, James, as a leader. It has followed me throughout. Not only can I apply it as a professional, but I can apply it as a personal, like my daily tasks. Like just those are things that I can do. If any advice, that's the advice that I would like to share.
That's good stuff. Let me give a shout out to you and your dad. So I'm not gonna get too personal, but Sheldon's dad is in law enforcement. So Sheldon is a product of a good man. And I want to sum up a lot of things that you said with your previous answers in our conversation and what you just said about your dad. Influence, again, shout out to your dad. Influence impacts lives. And Super Sheldon has been saying that throughout this whole conversation, just how influential behavior can impact lives. And also something that we need to pay attention to in this is that effective modeling results in effective implementation. How you like that? A lesson from a father to a son that can impact thousands of people. Thank you, Dad.
Shout out to Pops, Dr. Lewis Eakins. Shout
out, Pops. Yeah. This one I gotta read, man, because it wasn't no point of me trying to memorize this one, because this is a good one. If you could reverse engineer the success of one Black male educator entering education tomorrow, what positions, opportunities, and experiences would you encourage him to pursue? Again, you all, I normally don't read questions because these are conversations, but I had to read that one because y'all need to hear the answer to that one.
First thing that comes to my mind is surrounding yourself by individuals who have set a trail. Believe it or not, I'm a very introverted person. I'm very private. I keep to myself. I don't talk much. I small circles. I keep things real close and tight. And as I was going through my educational career, even the idea of becoming a teacher, I'd learned that from a Black man. His name was Mr. Fielder. He was my basketball coach, and he was my history teacher. And I remember, like in senior year, it's like, then that's what I want to do. I want to be like him. Like I want to coach basketball. I want to be a history teacher. I just love the way his class was. I went to college to do the same thing. So I had the opportunity to be a history teacher. I've had the opportunity to coach basketball and won a championship before, and it was fun. Like really good opportunities. But I had someone that was in the field that I could look at and 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 really take some time to, okay, that's what I want to do. So if I was to reverse engineer, I would start there. Surround yourself by individual, if possible. I know again, it's only 2-3% of black males in the education field. So if you're particularly someone that's black male and you're looking at doing something like this, going into education, for example, find another black male and ask them questions. What is it like? What do you think? When it comes to education outside on the actual personal education side of things, find some books written by folks of color that are relatable. Um, get some advice on what type of graduate school you should go to, and what type of programs and funding and different things like scholarship availability. And if you look at going beyond just master's level, want to go to EDS or maybe EDD, PhD, whatever you might be aspiring to, again, surround yourself by individuals who have done that work, who have already gotten to that place. Ask them questions like, what would you do differently had you not known this or had you not known that? But I think it's one thing for us to try to do things on our own, but and learn from your mistakes. But there's so much value in finding the level of support that I mean, there's people out there that are willing to help, but you have to ask. You have to find those people. So you do a little bit of the legwork to be able to find those mentorships or those brokers that are out there. And then from there, you'll be able to do some amazing things. And that's something I like my kids as they're growing up. Like I feel like I have opportunities to kind of share with them. Hey, here's what I learned throughout my process. Here's some things that I want you to try to do differently, or some things I want you to listen to. Now, they're my kids, they don't always listen, but at least I am trying to instill that information to them. So that's what I would do differently.
If you all want to start by doing something differently, I just want to suggest and recommend that you go over to Amazon, and if you want to see some books by men of color, type in James M. Holloway, then type in Dr. Sheldon Eakins, and you might be able to get a little bit of sauce early if you go over there and check that out. That's enough with the shameless plugging. Man, we got this thing that we call the legacy round. It's 7 principles, 1 legacy. Normally I ask a question, but for you, because this conversation has just been, I mean, it's not a word that I can have for it that's academic, so I'm not going to use any other words. I'm just going to call out the words, all 7 of them, and let you kind of just talk about how you feel about each one of those words. First one is discipline.
Discipline. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Just the whole every day, I set up my tasks for the day. That's something I've been doing for over 10 years at this point, and just keeping that regiment. So that's important. Otherwise, you will fall off.
Y'all better stay on that wagon. Don't fall off that wagon because you don't have no discipline.
Yeah.
All right, next one, effort.
Effort. Again, I talk about being intentional with anything that I do. I'm not here to just check boxes off and just to say I got it done. But I think it's important that you are intentional with with what you're doing. So it does take some effort, not just a basic minimum effort, but it needs to be something that you really believe in.
Okay. Focus.
Focus, just staying grounded and staying grounded in your beliefs, and just so I'm one of those people that like, okay, I feel like I have a purpose. This is the goal. These are the ambitions that I have. There's still believe it or not, there's still things I want to accomplish. There's still things that I want to do, succeed in life. Again, that creates that legacy that I have. And but the only way to do that is to stay focused. Do not deviate or let things distract you. But being really focused on those tasks that you have, those ambitions that you have.
All right. For the young people out there, or for the old people who don't know what this is, hashtag Lock in.
Mm,
Resilience.
resilience. Yeah, just again, it lines up to me. It lines up with just being focused and just being able to. If you hit walls, if you hit things coming your way, pitfalls. Because again, I could have a goal. This is where I want to be, and I can say, "Oh, I'll get it done in 3 years or whatever it is." But sometimes life happens. Things get in your way. Again, there are temptations that are out there to deviate. But the resilient side of things is just being able to stick to it, and staying focused.
Leadership.
Leadership. What type of leader? I would start with what type of leader are you wanting to be? I have always been one of those servant leaders. I'm not going to ask my staff to do something I would never do, or if I felt like it was beneath me. I'm the type of guy that would be out there helping serve lunch. I would be out there picking up trash and cleaning up. If I gotta go cut grass, I would do it. But that is part of to me. That's the type of leadership that I have. So start there. Find out what type of leader you are, and then I operate accordingly.
If you are a principal out there, you have no idea what it means to your custodial team when they see you pick up some trash.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Let's move forward. Courage.
You're gonna get pushback if we're talking leadership. People seem like the more staff you have, the more likely you're gonna have people that don't agree with what you got to say. They may not agree with your direction, your focus, your vision, where you're taking things, and that can even happen at home. If you're wanting to lead your household, you have to have that courage because a lot of territory. Again, I've been in administration for let's call it 15 years, and I'm still learning stuff. There's still experiences that I haven't had yet or that I'm going to have. And at the end of the day, I have to know that I'm making the best decision with the goal of the students in mind. That's where things are first. If this is best for the kids, I want to go that direction. But again, I have to also have the courage to understand that people are not going to agree with my decision. I might make mistakes as well, and I'm going to learn from those mistakes. But you have to have that courage.
All right, man. We have reached the finish line. Last one is character.
Hmm. What does somebody say about you when you're not in the room? When someone thinks of your name, they're referring to you. When people are having conversations about you, what are they saying? Are they saying things such as, he's a terrible person? Or are they saying things like, you can tell he cares about the kids? And that to me is very pivotal and very, very important, essential, if you will, when it comes to leadership. You have to have a strong character. I mean, they got folks that are in leadership roles, but they're straight up, I don't want to cuss, a-holes. And so it's just like, yeah, they're the principal, but they're like we don't like them, you know. So just having a strong character, have a moral compass that guides you, and to me, that's probably one of the most important pieces of the 7 words.
I love the fact that you are so transparent. We call the audience legacies. Legacies. That's why Super Sheldon and I have a leadership bromance because he's gonna keep it real. He's gonna keep it real, and he is not playing. The legacy round is over, and we're getting ready to close out. So as we get ready, I want him to have the opportunity to tell you how you can connect with him, where to locate his books, how you can request his services for coins, and all of the above. So go ahead, brother. Let him know.
Yeah, thank you again, James. It's been a pleasure to be on the show, seeing you face to face, and we've had several phone conversations, and we've chatted. And so again, it's an honor, it's a pleasure to be on your show. So thank you so much for sharing your platform. If folks want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. My name Sheldon Eakins. That's Eakins. You can also find me on Amazon. I have 3 books published right now. So one's on leadership, one's on classroom management, and then another one is generally on equity. So either of those books, wherever you are in your journey, you can do that. If you listen to podcasts, my show is Leading Equity. If you're looking at getting some work as far as consulting, keynotes, trainings, what have you, you can find my information on purposeful247.com. Purposeful247.com.
Y'all know where to find me for the most part. I do want to give a visual aid to the shameless plug earlier, just in case you do head over to Amazon. All right. Now, since that's over, we really appreciate your attention today, Legacies. If you aren't inspired, you should be. This is one of the greatest minds that we have in education before us right now. And I feel honored that he came and shared his story with us. So play this back plenty of times because it's nuggets everywhere.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Until we meet again, I hope that you are enjoying your day. And I also hope that you go out there and accidentally on purpose tell somebody to tune into the Legacy 7 podcast next week. And we are out. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Realize your greatness every day. Continue to connect with us on all our social media platforms. Links in the description below. Let's keep doing the work. Let's get it.